Hey Robert, let me know when you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Perfect. How's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Alrighty, so as we're diving in today, what are the things that you've been working on and where would you say we're at today?
So I've been kind of busy the past couple of weeks, but I have done some auditions. The
Great.
sound quality is a lot better since you helped me with
Oh,
my levels last week.
good. I'm
Uh,
so glad.
would you like to hear my latest audition?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Okay. It's loading now.
Cool. Alrighty. Oh, that was awesome. I heard a lot of great stuff.
Thank
There
you.
was one moment that it sounded a little bit like we kind of like popped a little too strong on the consonant. But since it's an audition, I think that's perfectly fine when you do the actual finished product.
Mm.
You pay a little bit more attention to those kind of details. Um, but I think for an audition, like the performance was really well done. I thought the pacing was good. I think you did a really nice job emphasizing and stressing on important words. I knew exactly what it was you were advertising. So a lot of really positive things. Nice. That
Oh,
was a really
thank you.
good commercial sound. Um, Commercials do tend to be a little bit faster. So I thought the pacing was really good, but it wasn't so fast that I couldn't understand every word. Um, when I do commercials, especially, I try to make sure that the company and the product, those important things they need to know, like, if this particular restaurant is in a certain town, I want them to know those kind of things. So
Mm.
thinking about those really important key pieces of information that you want them to remember and emphasizing those by slowing down or maybe stretching on a vowel or maybe kind of like hitting it harder and accenting it, finding ways to change the inflection on that. So things that make that stand out really well. And I thought you did a really nice job of that as well. And then, it is a little bit of a longer commercial script,
Mhm.
but it still was engaging the entire time. Like it kept energy, it kept momentum. It felt like it was like two different commercials. Did you feel that too? Like towards the end, maybe like the last 20 seconds felt like it might be almost like separate. And sometimes that happens. Like if this was a TV commercial, they might like show stuff in between and then go back to your voice. And so that could be part of why it feels kind of like that too. It could be like different segments and they might space it out a little bit differently. But all in all, a lot of really good things. And you're right, it has a really good sound quality. Like it almost sounds like Like a really good radio announcer voice, kind of an idea, except not quite that, but it has a little bit of that kind of quality to it, I felt like. Um, and I did think that the production was a lot stronger than before. So that's really
Yeah,
exciting. I
thank
also
you.
felt like your voice, like you were able to edit it without making your voice sound different than your natural voice, which is great because in auditions, especially, we want them to hear this is what my voice actually sounds like.
Mhm.
And so I really liked that aspect as well. So, what were some of your favorite things about it?
Definitely the sound quality. I liked, I made sure I looked right into the mic more and like spoke
Yeah,
right into the mic more. I feel like that really helped.
right.
Um, and it was fun doing it. I mean, I like going to restaurants, so it was fun doing an ad for something, a place that I would probably go to.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of the wording, like they were talking about, like put down your tools and treat your tools for. I can't remember the exact wording, but it's kind of like geared. It seems like it was kind of geared towards like maybe mechanics or motorcyclists. Um, and yeah, I know the part you're talking about where it popped, and I know what happened
Yeah.
there. I added a word in there, and
Okay.
so I cut that word out and the result was that it had that popping sound.
All right, because getting it like fitting
Yeah.
together afterwards.
And I was approaching the deadline to turn it in, so I
So you were
decided to
like, I
go
gotta
with it.
just get it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And that's perfectly fine. I understand that.
Yeah.
Um, so then, one thing that I might recommend trying is maybe sometimes I'll do a crossfade for that kind of a situation. Um, Hmm, let's see. So like right where it happens, sometimes I'll do a little crossfade, and that sometimes helps with that. Let me try and see if that works okay. Mm. Yeah, sometimes when you're like piecing it back together, that's why like cutting in and cutting parts of the script in after the fact, if they're like, "Hey, can you just tweak this one word or something?" can be so challenging. Um, but I feel like that can be sometimes just a quick little fix to make it kind of glide a little more seamlessly.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to find where that happens.
You deserve a break. Make it a delicious one at the Thunderbird Grill. Escape the midweek routine and enjoy a welcoming atmosphere and a menu full of tempting choices. Whether you're meeting friends, unwinding after work, or simply treating yourself, we've got something for everyone. Make tonight special. Visit us at 719 Main.
Must have been a little bit before there.
Kind. So ditch the wrench and grab a fork. The best home cooked specials, and don't forget prime rib Saturdays, located on 719 Main Street, Towanda, Kansas, open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's Wednesday. You deserve
Hmm.
Bird Grill. Just like you appreciate the craftsmanship and power of a finely tuned hot rod, we're passionate about crafting delicious meals with quality ingredients and bold flavors. Whether you're coming from a cruise night or just out for a ride, we're the perfect pit stop for fuel of a different kind. So ditch the wrench and grab a fork. The best home cooked specials, and don't forget prime rib Saturdays, located on 7.
Man,
It's where it says
Looking
for
for a
fuel of a different kind.
what was that?
It's where it says for fuel of a different kind.
Ah, okay. All right.
delicious meals with quality ingredients and bold flavors. Whether you're coming from a cruise night or just out for a ride, we're the perfect pit stop for fuel of a different.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it almost sounds like maybe you like cut out a breath or something.
Just out for a ride, we're the perfect.
Okay.
Just out for a ride, we're the perfect pit stop for fuel of a
Yeah,
different kind.
okay. So then I'm gonna zoom in there and find exactly where that
Ride,
happens.
where the perfect pit stop for fuel of a different.
Okay, I'm going to share what that looks like in Audacity.
Okay.
Okay, so it's like right in here, and I want to zoom in.
Ride, where the perfect pit stop for fuel of a different.
I feel like the perfect pit and fuel, like all three of those places kind of hit.
The perfect pit stop for fuel of a different.
But yeah, but that for fuel of a different kind, I'm just gonna highlight right there.
Okay.
For fuel of a different.
Yeah, so for fuel right there.
For fuel of a different.
So I think
For fuel.
so what I'm gonna try doing, I'm gonna go into fade and do a crossfade and see what that sounds like.
For fuel of a different.
Hmm, it's like a little abrupt sounding.
For fuel of a.
Like it kind of works. So, but I kind of feel like I'll try this.
Fuel of a.
No. Yeah, so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work as well. So let me listen.
For fuel.
It's like the R feels like cut off a little bit. So I'm gonna actually do a little like fade out right there on the R and see how that sounds.
Okay.
For fuel.
I feel like that's not as abrupt feeling. I mean, technically you can also stretch sometimes. But I mean, I also feel like you can just redo it as well. Like stretch factor and seconds you can do, or you can do, wait, oops, not filter. Yeah, up here. Sliding stretch as well. So you can kind of like pick how you want it to stretch. So like I can make it stretch a little bit longer. So like if I do that, let's see just what happened. Okay, so it said time resolution was too long. I could also just like slow this spot down a tiny bit.
For fuel.
But yeah, you can kind of like play and figure out what you want to do with it.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, that's what I need to change. I don't really use this very often. That's why I'm like, eh. Oh, I see. Yeah, I think it's just too short of an audio selection is what it's saying here.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So then I can like check out what that did.
You.
Yeah. Way, way too much. Yeah. So you have to kind of play with those a little bit. So I think the one I liked the most was just fading on the four a little bit.
Okay.
For fuel.
Yeah, I feel like that works a little bit better. And then I'm gonna listen to those peaks.
Perfect pit stop.
Yeah, I just feel like they're a little popping, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna do a fade in there on that one.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's a little bit more mellow. And then I'll just fade in on the other one too. So it just makes it a more gentle kind of onset.
Perfect pit stop for fuel. The perfect pit stop for fuel.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
sounds
so I
way better.
just did like a
Yeah.
fade in on the peas, and then I did a fade out on the four, so it didn't feel as abrupt when the R
Yeah.
cuts off. Those are the only things I changed there, and I feel like it just makes it a little more elegant of a flow. So, I mean, the stretch and tempo things you're not going to use very often in voiceover,
Mhm.
so they would be pretty rare. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this more edits one. Um, so yeah, like if I was gonna keep it then and maybe like put it as a sample on things, I might use the one that's like slightly polished a little bit more. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and upload that one for you.
Okay.
Okay, so then now that we did that, what would you say is maybe the next thing that you'd like to do today?
So a lot of the auditions, the invitations, they don't have a price. It says quoted by voice actor. And I want to kind of figure
Hmm.
out like a pricing plan for those because I've been skipping over those. I
Yeah.
don't really quite know how to do that yet.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Um, yeah, I'm always like I prefer to know what their budget is.
Yeah.
Personally, is it giving you like a window?
Uh, the ones that I've seen, it just says quoted by voice actor.
Oh, okay, great. Ugh. All right. So, if we make up your standard rates, I
Looking
want you
for
to think about the cost of
as
living where
rubber
you're
feeling,
at.
that gasoline in
Uh-oh.
your veins and
Hang
Oh,
on.
strength in your soul, then head
sorry,
over
I sent it through, so maybe
Thunderbird
that's why
Grill.
it's
Just
doing
like
that.
you appreciate the craftsmanship and power of a finely tuned hot rod. You're passionate about crafting
Where's that
delicious
coming
meals
from?
with quality ingredients
I
and
did put it into the chat
you're
and
coming
sent
from
it to you,
experience.
so that might
Okay.
be
I
where that's
started, I
coming
accidentally
from.
started playing it instead of downloading it.
Oh yeah, no problem. Okay, so what I was saying is we want to figure out your kind of standard rates that you're gonna typically charge. Um, so thinking about where you live and your cost of living, think about how much you need to make per hour to make a living. So if you were gonna say, approximately how much you need to make a living, what would that be
Um,
per hour?
for my current employer, I'm making about $40 an hour.
All right. So, you probably are like, I don't really want to make less than I make in my current job, right? So,
Yeah.
what we do is we go by per finished hour. Instead of an hourly rate, we say PFH is what you're going to see. So, when you see that PFH, that per finished hour, you're going to say, this is like my minimum. So I recommend quoting them slightly higher than your minimum so you can like negotiate down to your minimum.
Yeah.
So if you're like, okay, I need to make at least 40 an hour, maybe we bump it up to like 50 an hour. And then if they want to negotiate, you can maybe work down to your hourly rate that you would say is like the least you're willing to accept. Um, so I might open with a per finished hour rate of like 150 then, and then see what they say. Um, in my opinion, a lot of voice acting people are like under quoting people. Um, and that's not good for the industry because it's not good for any of us, really. So, respect yourself, respect your time, respect other voice actors, and ask for what you are worth, is what I would recommend. Um, so then I would recommend probably going slightly higher, asking for the 150 per finished hour, see what they say, and then go from there. But I would say if that's like your minimum, I wouldn't take less than that. I'd be like, hey, my absolute minimum then is 120 per finished hour. I can't go any lower than that. And that's fine. That's that. I don't think that's, too much to ask for at all. And I think at this point, you've invested a lot into getting a really good sound, into having a better setup for recording, into practice and training and time. And so I would say definitely don't undersell yourself.
Okay. And
Mhm.
how would you define a finished hour?
Oh, so the per finished hour means you've studied the script, you have read the script, recorded the script, and it's like edited and sent off. So you've done everything. So that's your completed project. You can estimate that you're going to spend approximately 3 hours of time for every finished hour. So if it's a 10-hour long audiobook, let's say, then you're going to want to ask then for 3 times the finished hour. So you're going to go, okay, I'm going to spend 30 hours on this. And if I'm charging, you know, 50 times 30 hours and getting paid 50 per hour, then I'm going to have this book needs to pay me, right, accordingly. So I'm going to have, to go through and be like, I need to be paid at least $1,500 to do this 10-hour book, right? Or, in your case, you can negotiate down to 1,200, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it should be something that compensates you accordingly. Um, And I think it's perfectly fine to go, this is what I'm paid already. And, I'm not really willing to live at a lower standard of living than that. So you just say, okay, that's my minimum. And that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
So
So,
then I would also say you can take a look at what union rates are. You are
mhm,
going to want to go lower than standard union rates because you're non-union. Um, but you're not going to go a ton lower. You're not going to sell yourself super short. So if we take a look at union rates for voiceover, we are going to just look that up. You can look at, what's documented and like put online from the unions. And so then once you have that, now a typical SAG union rate for a day could be paid about $1,000 for a 4 hour day, or they could be paid about 500 per 1 hour session, right? Radio commercials might have a session fee of like 300, while the video game interactive world could make about 900 a day. So you can kind of look up like what this particular job is for. Um, so radio commercials, they say 300. But here's the thing, that's for the recording time. You also are going to say, okay, what is this being used for? Are they going to use it internationally? Is it for television and radio? Is it going to be used online? Is this something they're going to use for 2 years? Do they want exclusivity? And with each of those things, they have to pay you more. So let's say I'm doing a Lincoln Motors commercial and I'm going to be there for just a couple hours to record. However, they are going to be using this commercial on TV, on radio, and online, and they're going to be using it for 1 year and they want exclusivity, which means I'm not allowed to do any other car commercials during that year. So they are taking other job opportunities away from me during that year, right? So then I'm going to say, okay, so maybe they have to pay me 300 for showing up and recording, right? So that would be like the 50 hourly rate, right? Because it's going to be per finished hour. Um, it's always PFH in voiceover world. So, I think 300 for those 2 hours would make sense. And then let's say they want a high quality audio file, that's going to be a slightly higher fee. And then they want, radio, television, and internet usage. Each of those is going to bump up my fee. And then exclusivity is going to bump up my fee quite a bit. So, in the end, I might ask for something like $3,000 to do that, right? Which is not an unfair request. Also, though, I do have agents, so they're usually the ones negotiating for me. So they do those things. But if you are doing jobs you're negotiating for yourself, you want to do basically the same thing. Video game interactive is usually about 900 a day, which is pretty standard. I have a friend who only does video games. They only work with about 2 or 3 companies, and they only do video games, and they get paid, I think, 800 a day. Plus, they fly them out because they live in another state, and they put them up in a hotel and they feed them the whole time. So
Wow.
I think that's pretty good. They actually
Yeah.
only work about half the year. Um, and their wife is a teacher, and they help take care of their elderly parents, and
Mhm.
they have babies, and they also teach at a university. So, it totally makes sense. And they have a very large Nike collection as well as a very large sword collection. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
guessing they're doing okay.
Yeah.
Um, so for television and feature animation, usually it's about $1,000 for the recording time. So yeah, it's like different different kind of things. Um, so you want to check out what the typical pay rates are. You're going to be asking for a little bit less than that, less than union rates, but I would never go less than half of what the union rate is. Never. So that is my recommendation.
Okay.
I'm also going to send you, this is a link to a backstage.com article on what to charge for voiceover. So it can give you some ideas. And then I'm also going to send you, alrighty. So this particular voiceover artist has put together some like recommended fees. So you can follow from her recommended rates as well.
Okay.
So for a radio commercial, this person is union. They charge a session fee of $300, and that's for each spot you record. So like each commercial. And then um, a likely amount is going to be paid each 13-week renewal cycle while in use. So let's say, we have 52 weeks in a year, right?
Yeah.
So if they have to pay me $300 then every 13 weeks, and they want to use it 2 years. So 2 times 52 weeks, right, is 104. We're going to divide that by 13. So 8 times 300 is going to be, they need to pay me $2,400 to use that commercial for 2 years. That's not even including exclusivity. So if they want exclusivity, I might charge them $3,500 instead. Um, so then, they list a bunch of different things. Now, again, remember that this person is union. So this is what they're charging as a union rate. So, being non-union, I would say the minimum you should ask for, if this is like a mom and pop shop in one town that they're only doing a radio commercial for those 2 years, you could, instead of like the 2,500, go like 1,250. Right? But if they're also going to be on television, and they're going to be online, and it's going to be international, right? Each of those, I'm going to actually add on fees to that. So you can kind of look through what they have written out here. New media and internet is a separate category, right? So if I did a radio commercial plus they're using it on television, I'm going to add that television rate, and internet is another rate. So look, for an internet commercial for a month, they're charging them basically $750. For 2 months, $900. For 1 year, over $2,000, about 2,200. And then for 2 years, it's going to be about $4,500, right? And that's just internet and new media. New media is stuff like YouTube or a podcast. So you're going to look through all of these things, and let's say they're using that same commercial for radio, television, and internet. You are going to add all of those things, and you're also going to be calculating how much time, therefore, your pay is going to be adjusted. So
Okay.
I think this is a really great resource. These are union rates that she is listing. And I would say minimum that you should accept right now is half of that, absolute minimum. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
That helps a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Awesome. So what are some of the jobs that are asking for those quotes?
Um, let's see. I don't know if there are currently any right now. Let me see if there's one that I don't really qualify for. The only one that's on right
Sure.
now, it's not that I don't qualify for it because of the accent. It's asking for a African American accent preferred, which I don't have, so I'm
That's
not
okay.
going to
Yeah. Right.
do that. But I can't remember any of the others recently, but
Sure. So let's just calculate what this job should pay you. So what are they asking for and what's the usage?
okay, it says a dramatic thriller centered in the world of espionage and focused on relationships between an old assassin and his reluctant teenage protege. He's
So this
extremely,
is a book. So we're definitely going to do our per finished hour rate for that. So how many hours is it going to be, or how many words did they say?
it doesn't say under duration of, see, it doesn't really say.
So you can do about 9,000 words per finished hour.
Okay.
So what we are going to assume then, we're going to look at how many words are in this project. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do then, let's say it is going to be, 100,000 words. That's going to be, maybe like 11 hours long. And so you have to say, okay, I'm probably spending 33 hours on this book. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, the union rate usually is going to be, depending on what the project is, right? But if we go back to look at like what that person had posted, they have a bunch of different things that they do. So corporation, educational, and non-broadcast, they have some listings. So like for narration, they say first hour spent is going to be $425.50. Then each additional half hour is going to be $124.50. And then um, for spokesperson, they have a different thing. So let's say, so you could say then, if you quoted and you went half of what that union rate is, you could say, okay, the first hour I'll do for 200 and every additional hour I will do four. And it would be half of the 120, so 60. So if you had then an 11-hour book, right? That's going to be 200 plus, it's going to be, 10 times the 60. So it would be 600 plus the 200 would be 800 minimum that you would accept for that book. So that's what I would say would be minimum. Now, what we said for your per finished hour would be 40 per hour. So if you times that by, 11, so 120 times 11 hours, right, would be $1,320, which I think is perfectly fine to ask for. I don't usually charge more for the first hour. I usually do like a flat fee per finished hour when I'm doing narration instead. Um, this person chooses to do the first hour is more and then others are less. Um, but I mean, I could see doing like, maybe 200 for the first hour and then like 100 for each additional, but I don't take ever less than 100 per finished hour. And if the project is going to be, even 5 minutes, a little booklet that I'm narrating or a children's story, my minimum is going to be my per finished hour rate. And I personally would never accept less than $100 for literally anything. And I don't recommend that you do either.
Okay.
So, if you are saying 40 is my minimum, then you say, I would like to be paid 50, 150 per finished hour, right? At the $50 hourly rate. And then you times that by however many hours, and then that's your rate, is what I usually do myself.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you're working on a union project, they have to pay you union rates, even if you are not union, which is cool. So having agents who are union agents is great. You always want to make sure they're not like blacklisted by the union for doing unethical stuff.
Yeah.
And then your agents have to make sure everyone treats you then as though you're union if they are union agents. So pretty cool. But if you're finding jobs for yourself, I sometimes go a little bit of a different route, is what I would recommend. So that 150 times 11 would be 1,650. And then if you negotiated it down to 40 for 11 hours, it's going to be 11 times 120 at 1320 would be the rate. So that's what I would personally recommend doing for something that's multiple hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like say you have a 1 hour project um or less, figure out like what is your absolute minimum you'd be willing to do that for. And it sounds like your absolute minimum would be 120, right?
Yeah.
So I would say never take less than 120 for literally any project
Okay.
would be my recommendation. Yeah,
Yeah. Sounds
cool.
good.
Awesome. So you've got some more ideas of how to approach these things. If you have any during the next couple weeks that you want to just like forward me the listing or like screenshot it, I'm happy to look at it and then tell you what I would recommend you charge.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
definitely do that. Sounds
cool.
good.
Awesome. All righty. Great. Great seeing you today, Robert. I hope that was
Thanks, you too.
helpful.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and yeah, you can always Google union rates and then try to like build around those ideas as well. See
Okay.
what's kind of industry standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
treat yourself like a professional.
Okay.
Don't ever treat yourself like, oh, I'm a beginner, I'm a newbie. Don't do that because then
Right.
other people will as well. Treat it
Okay.
like this is my job and I'm a professional.
Okay.
Always. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Alrighty.
All right.
You are a professional voice actor.
I am a
So,
professional voice actor.
yes. And you say that to yourself when people undersell you and are like, I'll give you $5. You can be
Yeah.
like, Psh, I am a professional and I can't live on that. So sorry. Bye. That's what you do.
Okay.
Because that's disrespectful to everyone in the industry. So, is what it is. If they don't have a budget, they can do it themselves.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I'll see you in a couple weeks, okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
Good luck with everything. Let me know
Thank
how it's
you.
going.
Thank you. I will. Bye.
Bye-bye.